From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at Noon, streaming now.
And thanks for joining us here this midday on WRTV. I'm Lauren Casey. Todd Clausen is standing by from home this midday with a check of our forecast. And Todd, I did get out between the morning show and the noon show, and it's a beautiful sunny day out there.
You know it is, and the sun's going to continue to shine. That's the good news, Lauren. Temperatures going all the way up into this mid to upper 70s. That's even better news. The one little flaw is the wind, and it's just now starting to kick up across the area and will become more of an issue going forward throughout the remainder of the day. You can see some of those wind speeds up to about 15 to 20 miles per hour from Indy to the north, but you notice 20 miles per hour just across the state line there in Champaign. And we're going to get into those 20 and 30 mile per hour wind gusts as the afternoon and evening goes forward. So just be aware of that. But temperatures mid 60s right now in most locations, just slightly cooler to the north there in Peru, 68 in Bloomington as well as Terre Haute. And we don't have that bright blue sky like we had yesterday. It's more in the way of filtered sunshine with some high clouds moving through. But all in all, it's a nice afternoon and you don't have to worry about any rainfall. That is going to stay to the north. So we will continue to warm as we go up into the mid to upper 70s here this afternoon with skies that'll be partly to mostly sunny. This evening will be mainly clear, but again, the winds really start to kick up from this point forward throughout the day. So if you have any loose patio furniture in your backyard or anything that can blow away easy, you may want to secure that or bring it inside if possible. Here throughout the afternoon and evening hours. We'll talk more about the specific wind speeds for tonight and then what the change in wind direction means for your Thursday coming up in just a few minutes. Lauren?
All right, Todd, thank you. The new COVID-19 numbers are just in from the state health department, and they report a slight improvement today. The state confirming 1,172 additional cases of COVID-19. That's actually fewer new cases than what we reported yesterday. A total of 139,269 Hoosiers have been diagnosed with the coronavirus since this pandemic began back in March. The Indiana Department of Health also reporting 14 additional deaths. That's down from 27 new deaths reported yesterday. So far, 3,609 people in Indiana have died with the coronavirus. Governor Holcomb had ended his appearances at weekly COVID-19 briefings, but today, with the cases on the rise, the governor will once again be on hand along with the state's health commissioner. The governor could let us know whether the rise in new cases will lead to a rollback of his back on track reopening plan, the goal to get the state back up and running. He could also announce whether Indiana's mask mandate will be extended. Right now, that's scheduled to expire this Saturday. We will have live coverage of the governor's briefing at 2:30 this afternoon right here on WRTV. You can also watch it at WRTV.com and, of course, on the WRTV Facebook page. Our Democracy 2020 coverage continues now with our continuing look at the race for the governor of Indiana. Today we hear from a candidate who wasn't given much of a chance to win, but who is making some noise largely due to this pandemic. Donald Rainwater is the Libertarian candidate for governor. He says that he favors the elimination of the individual income tax and the personal property tax on your primary residence. But much of the attention on Rainwater has come from his opposition to Republican Governor Eric Holcomb's executive orders during the pandemic. Rainwater spoke to our Rafael Sanchez this week.
Would a Governor Rainwater, would you have not had a stay-at-home order or a mask mandate or limited those gatherings?
I would not have, no.
Okay.
I believe that here again, to live in the type of society that the founders of both the United States and the state of Indiana intended, we're supposed to be citizens, not subjects, which means that the government should provide the information necessary, all the information, as much transparency as humanly possible, so that each citizen can decide for themselves how to keep themselves safe.
You can see more of Rafael's interview with Donald Rainwater tonight on the news at 6 o'clock. We've already highlighted Governor Holcomb and Democratic challenger Woody Myers. You can watch all of our unedited interviews with the candidates right now. Just go to WRTV.com. Well, we are now 1 week into early voting here in the state of Indiana, and Hoosiers continue to wait in long lines to make their voices heard. County clerks that we've spoken with say it's been a successful first week. In Hancock County, the clerk says about 2% of the county's registered voters have already cast their ballots. She's expecting more voters to show up after more polling locations open next week.
So once we open the other 4, that will help lines, I think, move a little more quickly. It's good to have just the one center open for the first 2 weeks, because then we can, find out different questions that we can inform our other inspectors and judges at the other centers to expect to come up, and just make sure that everything's running smoothly.
You should still be prepared to stand in line if you decide to vote early. Clerks say you should also remember to bring your photo ID and wear a mask, as they are required. State election officials say that early voting across Indiana is outpacing the last presidential election. Here are the numbers, the latest numbers from the Indiana Secretary of State's office. As of yesterday, almost 266,000 Hoosiers have already returned to their absentee ballots. Another 144,000 voted early in person. That means the number of votes cast already is equal to about 15% of the votes cast in the 2016 presidential race here in the state of Indiana. So we want you to remember some key dates ahead of this election day. If you want to vote by mail, you need to request your ballot by October 22nd, but do that as soon as possible so you can return your ballot to your county election office. Now, federal appeals court has sided with the state on the deadline to receive those absentee ballots. That means election officials must receive your ballot by noon on election day, so get those ballots in. You can find everything you need to know about voting here across central Indiana at the Vote in 2020 digital section of our website. Just go to WRTV.com. And we are 20 days until Election Day, and candidates in the race for the White House are both on the road in those key states. ABC's Rena Roy tells us that the president and his Democratic challenger will now be a part of dueling TV town halls set for tomorrow night.
It's the home stretch of one of the most contentious presidential elections in U.S. history. President Trump, fresh off his COVID-19 diagnosis, not wearing a mask, throwing out face coverings to his supporters in Pennsylvania, even taking a poll of who's also had the virus.
Who's had it? Yeah, a lot of people. Well, you're the people I want to say hello to because you're right now immune.
But scientists warn a person's immunity after contracting COVID-19 is still unknown. Dr. Anthony Fauci says the president is sending the wrong message, saying, quote, because he is such a visible figure, it amplifies some of that misunderstanding that people have that it's a benign disease. More than 215,000 Americans have died since the pandemic began, according to Johns Hopkins University. Trump is down in the polls. The latest ABC News Washington Post poll says 54% of likely voters are for Biden and just 42% for Trump. It also shows Biden with a 62 to 34% lead among suburban women. With just 20 days until final votes are in, the president pulling out all the stops with a desperate plea directly to that group of voters.
So can I ask you to do me a favor? Suburban women, will you please like me?
Meantime, Biden campaigning in the battleground state of Florida, making a pitch to seniors, a key voting group.
While he throws super spreader parties at the White House, where Republicans hug each other without concern of the consequences. How many of you have been unable to hug your grandkids in the last 7 months?
More than 11 million votes have already been cast across the U.S., which is about 10% of the total turnout of the last election. In Texas and Georgia, people are waiting up to 8 hours in line in some areas, already breaking voter turnout records. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Another day of questions ahead of her likely confirmation. Next, to look at the third day of the push to put a Hoosier judge on the Supreme Court. Todd.
And Lauren, the wind just now starting to pick up as advertised here across central Indiana. And these wind gusts will continue to climb going forward throughout the afternoon and evening hours. You see all the colors on the map there in Illinois. Those are wind gusts over 25 miles per hour, and that is what is heading in our direction. The good news is it's bringing in some warmth. We'll break it all down for you coming up when the News at Noon continues right here on WRTV.
Welcome back to the news at noon. It is the second day of questioning for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. Each member of the Senate Judiciary Committee will pose questions for the Notre Dame law professor through the afternoon. Abortion laws were among the topics already covered this morning, but as was the case yesterday, Judge Barrett did not indicate how she would rule on any specific cases. Democrats on the committee have expressed their concerns on the topic, as President Trump said he would not nominate someone to the court unless they would vote to overturn the Roe versus Wade ruling that legalized abortion. A reminder, you can watch the Amy Coney Barrett confirmation hearings at WRTV.com. You can also watch WRTV's coverage on your streaming device like Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, and Apple TV. Well, it's a law that not many people know about. Next, what lawmakers in one county are trying to do to help hunters who say they're in a bind. And let's take a live look right now from our tower camera here overlooking the Circle City. View to the west of the White River off there in a distance. It's a beautiful sunny day, but the winds are changing, and Todd Clausen is going to break down what those changes are in our forecast as we look ahead to the weekend. It's all coming up right here on the News at Noon. Stick around. Welcome back. Hunting season is about to begin here in Indiana, and some hunters out in Hancock County want to test out their scopes and equipments on their own property, but they may not be able to do so because of a law that's been on the books there for a long time. Our own Stephanie Wade tells us what's being considered by the Hancock County Commission.
We have behind us what I thought was a responsible gun owner's backstop.
The dirt is bought, and now Neil Anderson wants to practice his shot.
A lot of time and money was put into bringing all this dirt and setting it up to properly stop a firearm from going anywhere else in a dangerous manner.
As hunting season begins, Anderson got all this dirt to invest in a proper backstop for recreational shooting with his grandchildren.
Sighting in scopes, target practicing, setting up targets and shooting at them.
But as the current Hancock County ordinance stands, people cannot legally shoot guns in their backyards without special approval from the county's Board of Zoning Appeals and must be 300 feet from another person's home.
I've lived out here for almost 30 years now, and never knew that law was on the book.
Problem is, not many people knew about it. Officials admitting the ordinance wasn't often enforced.
This has always been there, kind of. It's just something that's came up because of this, dispute between the two neighbors here recently.
After months of people pushing to relax the county's rules, an amendment stood before the Planning Commission to do away with the special variance approval. But planning authorities decided to keep the ordinance as is.
Why is this ordinance in place? And if you got the commissioners are already saying they don't enforce it, well, then let's get rid of the rule so that we don't have this issue.
Usually we don't have to go out until somebody complains. I mean, that's kind of what we do.
Sheriff Brad Burkhart tells me all law enforcement can do is, if they receive a call, make sure someone is shooting 300 feet from a neighbor's home. But the zoning requirements fall under the Board of Zoning Appeals. Moving forward, he just urges everyone to be safe and respectful of their neighbors.
That's all I ask, I suppose, is, as we do things properly, we do it safely.
Stephanie Wade, WRTV.
Stephanie, thank you. The Hancock County Commission still has the final vote, even though the Planning Commission recommended not changing the ordinance. Commissioners still have 90 days to make a change. Let's get a check right now of our forecast if you are getting outside on this Wednesday. Todd, what can folks expect?
It's going to be mild, Lauren. That is the good news. In fact, today is going to be the warmest day that I have in my extended forecast, as we'll be well above normal. The issue is going to be the wind, and you see right now that it's already up to 14 miles per hour out of the southeast, so it's a warm wind direction, and then the humidity is only at 40%, and that's key as well. The National Weather Service has a statement out about burning. They do not want you to do any burning across central Indiana today because of the low humidity and the dry conditions combined with these winds that continue to pick up. Anywhere from 14 to 17 miles an hour right now in central Indiana. You see 20 mile per hour wind there in Champaign. And as we go throughout the remainder of the afternoon and into the evening hours, these winds are only going to continue to get stronger. In fact, as we get into the 7:30 hour, you see the time on the top right-hand portion of your screen there, 25 to 36 mile per hour wind gusts. As we get closer to midnight, a few locations, especially to the north, could approach 40 mile per hour wind gusts. So that's enough to maybe bring down some small branches and obviously move around some loose articles and patio furniture in your yard. So make sure you secure those or bring those in. And then as we work our way into the overnight hours, the winds will start to subside a little bit, but it does remain pretty breezy even into our Thursday as well. The trade-off I mentioned, the southerly winds bringing temperatures right now close to 70 degrees already in Bloomington, 67 in Bedford, as well as Greenfield. Muncie's at 66 degrees. And highs today will be topping off anywhere from about 75 to 80 degrees, depending on where you live. So it's a nice warm day. Our normal high is 66, so everybody is about 10 to 15 degrees above where we should be as far as high temperatures go. Now, yesterday we had completely blue sky. Today there's a little more in the way of some high, thin cloud cover moving through, but we will remain dry. But the reason why we are going to see the wind continue to pick up is this cold front that is off to our west is going to get closer. And as it gets closer, the winds will pick up. And then eventually as the front goes through, we are going to see the winds change direction. So I'm going back to the wind gust forecast map, and I'm picking up now tomorrow morning. And watch what happens to those arrows. They switch and they go northwesterly as the front comes through, and that's going to usher in much colder air. So tomorrow's high temperature is going to actually occur shortly after midnight, probably right around 66 degrees, and then we'll be down to 62 degrees by 4 a.m. And then the temperature will continue to fall throughout the remainder of the day, and for much of the afternoon will only be in the mid-50s, with some showers making their way through the area. It's not going to be a lot of rain as this front goes through, but there will be some scattered showers around. The bigger impact, again, will be on the temperatures, because look what happens Friday and Saturday morning. Lows down close to freezing across the area, and then highs on Friday only in the mid-50s. We do get back up to around 60 degrees on Saturday. About a big time push of some chilly air, Lauren, will be heading our way after these temperatures start to fall overnight into the day tomorrow.
All right, Todd, thank you. So hundreds of thousands of Hoosiers are voting by mail this year. It's part of a nationwide spike in absentee voting, in part due to the ongoing pandemic. So our Stephanie Liebergen with our partners at Newsy takes a closer look at whether voting by mail might give a boost to certain candidates once those votes are counted.
Does mail-in voting favor one party over the other?
Recent elections have shown that Democrats are comfortable voting by mail, but historically, voting by mail was largely done by older Americans who tend to lean Republican.
The red mirage would be that when all the in-person votes are counted in all these states, it might look like the Republicans are doing pretty well, like President Trump is on his way to re-election. But hold your horses, because if it's true that a solid majority of Democrats are going to vote by mail, those votes are generally counted later.
If Democratic voters do choose to vote largely by mail this year, that red mirage could turn into a blue shift.
I think if the public realizes that only 50% of the ballots have been counted and that there's another 50% to go, that's a different dynamic than thinking, oh, well, we're supposed to know the answer tonight.
Regardless of how people vote in 2020, the risks associated with the coronavirus pandemic are universal.
The threats to your health and safety are very much nonpartisan in that regard. So voting only favors one party if that party is the only one encouraging people to vote.
Stephanie Liebergen, Newsy, Miami.
Well, if you have no hair on your head, today is your day. The day when you declare that bald is beautiful. Today is National Be Bald and Be Free Day. Yeah, there's a day for just about everything now. The day recognizes the beauty of the naked scalp, and for those who are bald, take pride in it. This is also a day to stand in solidarity with those coping with baldness as a result of a medical treatment like chemotherapy. One way to mark the day, shave your head if you're not already bald. And of course, there's a social media hashtag if you're posting bald selfies. It's hashtag Be Bald and Be Free Day. All right, Todd, we can't see you right now, but we know you got a good head of hair, so not your day.
Hey, I support everybody doing it for a cause, but I'm going to keep my hair on my head. It might be going gray, but I'm going to celebrate National Dessert Day, which is today as well, with maybe some ice cream later on. So, all right, it's warm, it's windy this afternoon, 79 degrees with wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour. Tomorrow, temperatures fall all day. The high is 61's pretty early in the day. Some scattered showers tomorrow as well. Dry Friday and Saturday, but much cooler, especially in the morning with temperatures in the 30s.
Todd, thank you, and thank you for joining us and making WRTV your choice for news. We hope you come back. Join us tonight for the news at 5. Have a great afternoon.